The red dust of Outnumbered was usually quiet. It was a dry, dead place where miners dug for rare metals deep under the ground. But today, the dust was not settling. It was kicked up by millions of feet, claws, and the heavy shaking of the ground. The sky was not blue or black anymore. It was blocked by a thick cloud of dark, living ships. These ships belonged to the Xylov. They were insect-like monsters that ate everything in their path. They did not talk. They did not make peace. They only killed. Captain Mike stood on the high wall of the main colony base. He looked out at the horizon. The horizon was moving. It was a wall of teeth, legs, and armor coming closer. Mike was a tired man. He had not slept in 2 days. His armor was dirty and covered in black alien blood. He held a heavy rifle, but his hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He looked at the soldiers near him. They were young. They were scared. But they were human, and they were standing their ground. "The shields are going down," a voice said in his ear. It was Ben. Ben was the communications officer. He was safe in the deep bunker below the ground. Mike touched the button on his helmet to talk. "How long do we have?" Mike asked. "Maybe 10 minutes, Ben said. His voice sounded small. "The big aliens are charging their main guns. They are going to hit the generator. After that, the walls are just metal and concrete. They won't stop the Xylov for long." Mike nodded. He looked at the soldiers again. He did not lie to them. They knew the truth. They had been fighting for days. They had run out of heavy weapons 3 hours ago. Now, they only had their guns and their courage. "Listen to me," Mike shouted. His voice cracked a little. "The aliens are coming. They think we are food. They think we are weak. We are going to show them what humans are made of. Fix your bayonets. If they come over the wall, we make them pay for every inch with blood." The soldiers yelled back. It was a war cry. It was not loud, but it was full of anger. They checked their guns one last time. They attached the long knives to the ends of their rifles. They waited. Down in the bunker, it was cold. The lights were flickering. The machines made a low humming sound that was getting quieter. Ben sat in front of a wall of screens. The screens showed red dots. Millions of red dots were moving toward the blue dot that was the base. Ben wiped sweat from his forehead. He felt useless. He was not a fighter like Mike. He was just a technician. But right now, he had a job to do. He saw a signal on his screen. It was very faint. It was coming from a small satellite that was hidden in the asteroid belt near the planet. It was a special signal. It was not a distress call for help. It was a trigger. The Earth Alliance had a plan for this. They called it the Dead Man's Switch. If a colony was about to fall, the satellite would send a code. It did not ask for help, it told the Earth Alliance where to send the big guns. Ben's fingers danced over the keyboard. The Xylov were trying to jam the signal. They were smart. They knew that humans might call for friends. But the satellite was old. It used a very simple frequency that the aliens could not block easily. "The signal is away," Ben whispered to himself. "It is sent." Outside, the ground shook harder. The Xylov ships in the sky fired a green beam of energy. It hit the shield generator. There was a loud crack, like thunder, and a blinding white light. Then, the humming noise stopped. The blue bubble that protected the base faded away. The wall shook as the shock wave hit it. Dust fell from the ceiling of the bunker and onto Ben's shoulders. "They are through," Ben yelled into the radio. "Shields are down. Mike, they are coming." On the wall, Mike saw the shield vanish. He felt the air get hot. The Xylof screamed. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping on glass, but louder. It was the sound of a million monsters hungry for flesh. "Hold the line!" Mike screamed. The wave of aliens hit the wall. They climbed over each other. They were huge, some as tall as a house, others small like dogs but with many legs. They spat acid that melted the concrete. The human soldiers fired their guns. The noise was deafening. Casings fell to the floor like rain. The aliens died, but there were always more behind them. Mike shot a large bug that tried to climb over the edge. It fell back into the crowd. He stabbed another one with his bayonet. Green blood splashed on his face. He tasted it. It was bitter. He wiped his eyes and kept shooting. "They have too many numbers." A soldier next to him yelled. "We cannot stop them all. Just keep shooting." Mike replied. "We die here." For a moment, it seemed like the end. The Xylof were pouring over the wall. The soldiers were being pushed back. Mike saw a young soldier get grabbed by a large alien claw. He tried to save him, but he was too far away. Mike felt a deep pain in his chest. This was it. This was how humanity ended on this world. Eaten by bugs. In the bunker, Ben watched the cameras. He saw the soldiers falling. He saw the aliens breaking the door. He closed his eyes. He waited for the dark. He waited for the pain. Then, the radio on his desk made a strange sound. It was not a human voice. It was a loud, sharp beep. Then another. And another. Ben opened his eyes. He looked at the main sensor screen. The screen that showed the space above the planet was turning red. But it was not the aliens. It was something else. Outside, the noise of the battle suddenly stopped. The Xylof froze. The humans lowered their guns slightly, confused. Everyone looked up. The dark clouds in the sky began to swirl. The air became very hot. Static electricity made the hair on Mike's arms stand up. Above the Xylof fleet, the space tore open. It looked like someone had ripped a painting. A bright, white light shone through the hole. It was so bright that everyone had to cover their eyes. Then, shapes came out of the light. They were not organic. They were not smooth and curved like the alien ships. They were blocky. They were gray and black. They were sharp angles and heavy metal plates. They were huge, much bigger than the Xylof ships. They had guns on them that looked like the barrels of giant cannons. There were hundreds of them. The lead ship was the biggest. It looked like a flying fortress. It had a large flag painted on the side. It was the flag of the United Earth Alliance. A blue circle with stars. Mike stared up at the sky. His mouth was open. He could not believe it. The despair vanished. A new feeling grew in his chest. It was hope. It was a fierce, burning hope. "Is that?" Ben whispered over the radio, his voice shaking. "Is that the cavalry?" The big ship in the front of the fleet aimed its massive main gun at the center of the Xylof swarm. The Xylof ships tried to turn. They tried to run. But it was too late. The humans had arrived. And they were not happy. The ships that came out of the white light did not look like they came from a dream. They did not look like the sleek, silver flying saucers that people talked about in old stories. These ships were ugly. They were blocky, square, and dark gray. They looked like giant flying bricks made of thick metal and anger. This was the 7th Battle Fleet of the United Earth Alliance. They were called the Void Walkers, but today, they were just the exterminators. The biggest ship in the middle was the UES Wrath. It was a massive heavy carrier, covered in guns and missile launchers. Inside the Wrath, it was very quiet. The bridge was a dark room filled with blue lights and screens. Crew members sat at their desks, typing on keyboards and watching the data. Admiral Tom sat in the captain's chair. He was an older man with gray hair and a calm face. He held a ceramic mug of hot coffee in both hands. He did not look nervous. He looked like a man who was waiting for a bus, not a man who was about to start a war. Next to him stood Commander Sarah. She was younger, with sharp eyes and a strict posture. She watched the main screen intently. "Report," Admiral Tom said softly. His voice was low, but everyone heard him. "We have dropped out of hyperspace right on top of them, sir," Sarah said. "The enemy is confused. Their sensors are picking us up, but they do not know what we are. We have a clear shot at their main formation." Tom took a sip of his coffee. "And the colony, the people on the ground. Their shields are down, but the Xyloph have not breached the inner walls yet." "They are holding on," Sarah said. "But they do not have much time." Tom nodded slowly. He put his coffee mug down on a small table next to his chair. "Then we should not waste any more of their time. Are the main guns charged?" "Yes, sir. All railguns are loaded with tungsten rounds. Missiles are locked." "Good," Tom said. He leaned back in his chair. "Open fire." The order went out instantly. Across the fleet, hundreds of heavy metal plates on the bottom of the ship slid open. Long barrels, the size of skyscrapers, pushed out into the cold vacuum of space. The Xyloph fleet was a mess of organic shapes. Their ships looked like giant bugs, clams, and worms stuck together. They were connected by green energy webs. When they saw the human ships open their gun ports, they tried to react. They turned their plasma weapons toward the Earth fleet. But they were too slow. The human railguns did not shoot lasers. They did not shoot colorful bolts of energy. They shot solid metal slugs at speeds that were too fast to see. The slugs were surrounded by fire as they flew through space. There was no sound in the vacuum of space, but the visual was terrifying. Long lines of red fire streaked from the human ships and smashed into the alien fleet. The impact was devastating. The alien ships, which were soft and fleshy, exploded instantly. The metal slugs tore through them like bullets through paper. Thick green blood and alien body parts floated into the void. Huge ships broke in half. The explosions lit up the dark sky above the planet. On the bridge of the Wrath, the crew watched the destruction calmly. "Enemy shields are down," Sarah reported. "Their hulls are too weak to stop kinetic impacts. We are hitting them hard." "Don't stop," Tom said. "Target the big ones first." The alien ships tried to fight back. They shot green beams of acid and plasma. Some of the beams hit the human ships. But the human ships were built differently. They had thick armor made of composite plates. When the alien plasma hit, it scorched the paint and made the metal glow red, but it did not penetrate. The humans did not rely on fancy energy shields that could fail. They relied on being harder to break than the enemy was to kill. Down on the surface of the planet, the battle on the ground had stopped. Both the humans and the aliens looked up. Captain Mike stood on the wall. His mouth was open. He watched as the alien ships in the sky turned into fireballs. "What is that?" a young soldier asked, lowering his rifle. "That," Mike said, feeling a laugh building in his chest, "is the United Earth Alliance. And they are using the big guns." Debris from the destroyed alien ships began to rain down on the planet. It burned up in the atmosphere, looking like a strange green meteor shower. The Xyloph on the ground were confused. They could feel the death of their hive brothers through their mental link. They began to back away from the colony walls. Their anger turned into fear. In the bunker, Ben was watching his screens. He was jumping up and down. "Yes. Yes. Take that, you bugs!" he yelled. He could see the sensor data. The human fleet was tearing the enemy apart. "Mike! Do you see this? We are winning." "I see it, Ben." Mike shouted into his radio. "Tell them to keep shooting." Back in space, the battle was going well. The UES Wrath shuddered slightly as a piece of a destroyed alien ship bounced off the bow. "Sir, enemy fleet formation is breaking," Sarah said. "They are trying to retreat. They are turning away from the planet." "Let them run," Tom said. "But send a message first. Target the carrier in the center. The big one." "Aye, sir." "Firing solution ready." The Wrath turned its massive main battery toward a large, worm-like ship that seemed to be commanding the alien swarm. The railguns roared silently, sending a storm of metal into the alien carrier. The ship bloomed from the inside out and split into 3 pieces. Just as the crew thought the fight was over, a siren blared on the bridge. It was a loud, harsh sound that made everyone look up. "Contact!" Sarah shouted, her voice urgent. "New signature." "It's huge." On the main screen, a massive shadow began to move from behind the planet's moon. It was a ship that dwarfed everything else in the battle. It was 3 times the size of the Wrath. It looked like a grotesque skull with tentacles. It was a Hive Queen vessel. "Where did that come from?" Tom asked, sitting up straighter. "It was hiding in the moon's gravity well, sir," Sarah said, typing fast. "It is charging a main weapon. Energy levels are off the charts." The massive alien ship opened a giant maw at the front of its hull. Purple light began to gather inside it. The light was so bright it hurt to look at on the screen. "They are targeting the colony," Sarah said. "If they fire that, they will burn the entire continent." Tom grabbed the edge of his chair. His knuckles turned white. "Deploy the countermeasures. And get me the Marine commander. Tell him to get his drop pods ready. We are going to have to board that thing." The purple beam fired. It streaked across space, aiming for the helpless human colony below. But before it could hit, the human ship UES Defiance moved its bulk directly into the path of the beam. The Defiance was a smaller escort ship, but it was brave. The beam hit the Defiance. The shields overloaded and shattered instantly. The ship's hull melted. The Defiance broke apart, exploding in a brilliant flash of white and orange. The beam was blocked, but the cost was high. The explosion pushed the Wrath to the side. Tom watched the fire where the Defiance used to be. His face was hard as stone. "They killed the Defiance," Tom said quietly. The bridge was silent. "Sarah, recall the fleet. Tell them to form a wedge around me. We are going straight down that alien queen's throat." "Sir, that is suicide," Sarah said. "We don't know what weapons that thing has." "I don't care," Tom said, his voice booming now. "They started this. We are going to finish it. Launch the drop pods. All of them. The massive alien ship, the Hive Queen vessel, hung in the sky like a dark mountain. It was ugly and twisted, made of bone and dark metal. It was much bigger than the human ships. After destroying the UES Defiance, it turned its many eyes toward the remaining human fleet. The ship did not just fire guns. It made a sound. It was a psychic scream, a noise that went inside the brain. On the bridge of the UES Wrath, the lights flickered. Some crew members held their heads in pain. The scream was trying to break their will. It was trying to make them afraid. It made the computers glitch and screens turn to static. Admiral Tom stood strong. He did not hold his head. He gripped the edge of his chair until his hands hurt. The scream bounced off his mind. Human minds were stubborn. They did not like being told what to do. Report. Tom shouted over the noise of the screaming alarm. Systems are failing. Commander Sarah yelled. She looked pale, but she was still working. The psychic field is disrupting our targeting computers. We cannot get a lock on the ship from this distance. Tom looked at the main screen. The alien ship was opening its mouth again to fire another beam. If it hit the Wrath, everyone would die. They had to do something different. They could not fight this monster from far away. We do not need computers to hit something that big, Tom said calmly. He looked at Sarah. Order the fleet to stop long-range attacks. Switch to protocol sledgehammer. Sarah's eyes went wide. Sir, protocol sledgehammer is very dangerous. We have to get close. Yes, Tom said. Get us close. Tell every ship to empty their missile bays. I want a wall of steel between us and them. Launch everything. Across the human fleet, the big ships stopped firing their rail guns. Instead, they opened hundreds of hatches. Inside were rows of missiles. These were not smart missiles that could think. They were dumb, fast rockets with heavy warheads. Thousands of them launched at once. It looked like a cloud of angry hornets leaving the hive. The alien ship saw the missiles coming. It tried to shoot them down with its small guns, but there were too many. The missiles hit the alien hull in a massive wave. Fire and explosions covered the front of the Queen ship. The purple beam it was charging died out as the power systems exploded. Now, Tom said, standing up. While they are blind, send the Marines. All drop pods. Go. Inside the UES Wrath, the launch bays were chaotic. Red lights flashed. Steam hissed from pipes. Hundreds of drop pods were lined up. They looked like big metal cans with engines on the bottom. Sergeant Alex stood in front of his squad. They were wearing heavy black armor. They looked like robots, but they were humans inside metal suits. Alex checked his weapon. It was a heavy shotgun, good for close fighting. On his back, he carried a giant sword. The blade of the sword had jagged teeth. It was a chainsaw sword. It was loud, messy, and very deadly. Listen up! Alex shouted. His voice was amplified by his helmet. We are dropping right onto the big ship. We are going to find the brain of this beast and cut it out. Do not get separated. If you see a bug, kill it. Any questions? No, sir. The squad yelled back. They were ready. Get in. Alex ordered. They climbed into the drop pod. It was tight. There were 10 of them, sitting in 2 lines back to back. The door closed, sealing them in darkness. Then, the harness locked them to their seats. Hang on to your lunch, the pilot's voice said over the radio. Launching in 3, 2, 1. The pod shuddered violently. A giant magnet threw the pod out of the ship. Suddenly, they were weightless. Then, the engines fired, pushing them down toward the planet. They were falling fast. The G-force pressed them into their seats. It was hard to breathe. Outside the small window, Alex could see the battle. Missiles were flying everywhere. The alien ship was burning. The pod's computer made a loud noise. They were entering the atmosphere. The ship shook harder. It felt like being inside a washing machine full of rocks. Brace for impact. The pilot yelled. The pod hit the side of the alien ship. They did not land gently. They smashed into the hull like a hammer hitting an egg. The metal screeched. The pod spun around and dug into the fleshy, metal skin of the alien vessel. Everything went black for a second. Alex shook his head. His vision cleared. Status report. He yelled. We are down. The pilot said. Hull is breached. We are stuck in the side of the ship. Open the door. Alex commanded. The ramp at the front of the pod blew open with explosive charges. Steam and smoke poured out. The air that came in smelled terrible. It smelled like rotting meat and burned plastic. Alex stood up first. He revved his chainsaw sword. The engine roared to life, buzzing loudly. It was a terrifying sound. He walked out of the smoke. He was standing in a dark corridor inside the alien ship. The walls were wet and moving, like they were breathing. It was disgusting. Suddenly, shapes moved in the shadows. They were Xyloth warriors. They were tall, with 4 arms and sharp claws. They had come to see what had crashed into their home. They hissed at Alex. They bared their teeth. The squad behind Alex raised their guns. They were nervous, but they were Marines. They were trained for this. The aliens screamed a war cry and charged. They ran on the walls and ceiling. They were fast. Open fire. Alex yelled. The sound of shotguns filled the narrow hallway. It was deafening. The blasts tore into the front line of aliens. Green blood splashed the walls. But the aliens kept coming. They jumped over their dead friends to get to the humans. One big alien jumped right at Alex. It swung its claws. Alex did not shoot. He stepped to the side and swung his chainsaw sword. The spinning teeth bit into the alien's armor and cut deep. The alien screamed and fell. Another alien tackled a Marine from Alex's squad. They rolled on the ground. The Marine hit the alien with his gun, but the alien was strong. Sword. The Marine yelled. Alex ran over. He brought the heavy blade down. The fight was messy and brutal. There was no honor here, just survival. Behind them, more drop pods were smashing into the ship. The humans were invading the invaders. The Xyloth were confused. They had never seen enemies drop from the sky directly into their home. They thought they were safe inside their big ship. We have to push deeper. Alex shouted over the noise of battle. We need to find the control center. Follow me. They moved down the hallway. Alex slashed at anything that moved. His squad covered him, shooting down the side passages. They were making a bloody path through the heart of the alien fleet. The ship shook again. The human fleet outside was still bombing it. Explosions rocked the floor. We don't have much time. Alex said. Let's move. He kicked open a door at the end of the hall. It led to a massive cavern inside the ship. It was the central chamber. In the middle was a giant, glowing brain attached to cables. It was the Queen. The Queen was huge. She looked at the humans with thousands of eyes. She let out a psychic scream that made their helmets ring. She knew they were here to kill her. She sent her royal guards to stop them. The guards were bigger and faster than the normal warriors. They poured into the room like a black river. Alex looked at the army of aliens between him and the Queen. He looked at his tired squad. He smiled behind his helmet. "Well," Alex said. "We got their attention." On the dusty ground below the giant alien ship, the noise of the battle was deafening. The Xylof warriors had finally broken through the main gate of the colony. They poured into the streets like black water, hissing and screaming. They expected the humans to run and hide. They expected the humans to cry and beg for their lives. But that is not what happened. Captain Mike stood at the end of the street. Behind him were the last few lines of defenders. They were tired, bleeding, and low on ammo, but their eyes were hard. Mike looked at the swarm of monsters coming toward them. He saw a weapon on the ground that a fallen soldier had dropped. It was a heavy flamethrower. Mike picked it up. He checked the fuel tank. It was full. "Listen to me," Mike shouted over the noise of the aliens. "They think we are prey. They think we are weak. Let's show them what happens when you play with fire." Mike stepped forward and pulled the trigger. A long, bright stream of fire shot out and engulfed the front line of the Xylof. The aliens screamed a terrible sound. Insects usually hate fire, and these alien monsters were no different. The fire cooked their armor and burned their soft flesh inside. The smell was awful, like rotten eggs and burning hair. The aliens stopped running. They tried to back away from the heat. They were confused. The prey was not supposed to fight back. "Charge!" Mike yelled. The human soldiers ran out from behind their cover. They didn't have much ammo left, so they used knives, shovels, and their bare hands. They fought with a wild energy that scared the Xylof. The hive mind could feel the fear of the aliens. They were fighting a species that would not give up, no matter how many of them died. While Mike fought in the streets, high above inside the belly of the massive alien ship, the fight was even more intense. Sergeant Alex stood in the giant central chamber of the Hive Queen vessel. The air was thick and hard to breathe. In front of him was the Queen. She was a giant, fat creature attached to the floor by thick tubes. Her skin was pale and wet. She had many eyes that looked at Alex with hate. Around the Queen were hundreds of royal guards. They were bigger than the normal soldiers. They had heavy armor and sharp spears. "Kill them!" Alex shouted. For the Defiance. Alex's squad fired their weapons. The sound of the gunshots echoed in the huge room. The royal guards charged. They did not care about their own lives. They just wanted to protect the Queen. Alex fired his shotgun until it was empty. He dropped it and pulled out his chainsaw sword. The blade roared. A guard jumped at him. Alex swung the sword up. The teeth of the blade cut through the alien's armor and split it in half. Green blood splashed all over Alex's faceplate. The Hive Queen saw this. She tried to use her mind to stop them. She sent a powerful psychic wave into the room. The human helmets crackled with static. The soldiers fell to their knees, holding their heads. It felt like a spike was being driven into their brains. "Stop fighting," the Queen's voice said inside their heads. Her voice was cold and sounded like many people talking at once. "Surrender," and you will be allowed to live as pets. Do not die for nothing. The pain in Alex's head was terrible. His nose started to bleed. He shook his head. He gritted his teeth. He thought about the colony below. He thought about the UES Defiance that was destroyed. He thought about his friends who had died. No, Alex said. He stood up. His legs were shaking, but he stood. We do not surrender. We do not serve monsters. He revved the chainsaw sword again. And we are not pets. He roared and charged at the Queen. His squad saw him stand up. They found the strength to stand up too. The aliens were shocked. The psychic scream usually worked on other species. It made them give up. But humans were stubborn. When humans were told to give up, they often got angry instead. Alex ran toward the Queen, cutting through any guard that got in his way. He reached the base of the giant creature. The tubes that connected her to the ship were pulsing with life. Alex pulled a large bomb from his backpack. It was a bunker buster, a heavy explosive made for destroying bunkers. He looked at the timer. He set it for 2 minutes. He jammed the bomb into the soft flesh between the tubes and the floor. Time to go. Alex yelled into his radio. He turned to run, but a large claw grabbed his leg. It was a royal guard that was not dead yet. It slashed at Alex's armor, cutting deep into his leg. Alex yelled in pain. He kicked the alien in the face with his other boot and fired his pistol into its head. The grip loosened. Alex scrambled up and ran back toward his squad. Bomb is set. Run to the pods. Now. The squad turned and ran out of the chamber. The Queen screamed in panic. She pulled at her restraints, trying to get to the bomb, but she was too fat and too connected to the ship. They ran through the hallways. The ship was shaking. The explosion had not happened yet, but the ship knew it was dying. The lights went red. Gravity started to fail. The Marines had to push off walls to float down corridors. They reached the escape pods. There were only 2 pods left. The squad jumped inside. The doors closed. Eject. Eject. The pilot yelled. The pods blasted away from the side of the alien ship. They flew into open space. A few seconds later, there was a blinding flash inside the Hive Queen vessel. The bomb exploded. It blew the Queen into pieces. The explosion destroyed the center of the ship. The ship lost all power. The engines died. The structure of the ship groaned and began to break apart. But the ship was huge. Even with its brain destroyed, it was still falling. It had been low in the atmosphere when it died. Gravity grabbed it. Alex looked out the small window of his escape pod. He saw the massive alien ship tumbling end over end. It was falling directly toward the planet. It's coming down. Alex said into the radio. It's coming down fast. Down on the ground, Mike looked up. The sky was dark again. The massive shadow of the Queen ship was covering the colony. It was falling like a mountain falling from the sky. It was going to crash right on top of them. It's going to hit us. Ben yelled over the radio. Run to the deep shelters. It's going to hit. The aliens on the ground stopped fighting. They looked up in horror. Their mother was falling. They tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Mike watched the ship getting bigger and bigger in the sky. He saw the escape pods flying away from it. Hold on. Mike screamed to the soldiers near him. Brace for impact. The alien ship hit the ground miles away, but the shock wave was like a hammer made of air. It traveled across the desert, kicking up dust and rocks. It was a wall of force heading straight for the colony. Mike grabbed a railing and closed his eyes. The sound was like the end of the world. The massive alien ship hit the ground miles away from the colony, but it felt like a bomb went off right next door. A wall of dust and wind rushed across the desert, threatening to bury the human defenders. Captain Mike held onto a metal railing with all his strength. The wind roared like an angry beast. Sand hit his armor, stripping the paint off. He closed his eyes and prayed to whoever was listening that the world would not end today. Then, the wind stopped as fast as it had started. Mike opened his eyes. The air was full of thick, brown dust. He couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He coughed and tapped the side of his helmet. "Ben, anyone, can you hear me?" Static answered him for a few seconds. Then, Ben's voice came through, weak and crackling. "Mike, is that you? I am here. The bunker is shaking. But the roof held." Mike let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "I'm here, Ben. We are alive." "Mike, look up," Ben shouted over the radio. Mike looked up toward the sky, through the settling dust. He expected to see the burning remains of the alien ship crushing the colony. Instead, he saw a beam of blue light. It came from one of the human battleships in orbit. It was a tractor beam. High above the planet, Admiral Tom stood on the bridge of the UES Wrath. The ship was rocking slightly from the explosion below. "Sir, the Queen ship is falling on the colony," Commander Sarah said. Her voice was tied with worry. "Impact in 20 seconds. There is nothing we can do to stop it." "There is always something we can do," Tom said. He leaned forward. "Target the falling debris with the main tractor array. Max power. Push it." "But sir, the weight of that ship, pushing it will burn out the emitters." "Do it," Tom roared. The UES Wrath rotated in space. A massive blue beam shot out from the bottom of the ship. It hit the burning hulk of the alien Queen ship. The beam pushed against the massive weight of the falling object. Metal groaned in space. The engines on the human ship glowed red hot as they pushed past their safety limits. Slowly, the falling ship changed direction. It slid to the side. Instead of hitting the human colony, it crashed into the empty mountains a few miles away. A huge cloud of dust rose up from the mountains, but the colony was safe. On the ground, Mike watched the blue light fade away. The dust cloud to the south grew bigger, but they were not buried. The soldiers around him started to cheer. They hugged each other and fired their guns into the air in victory. Mike looked around at the battlefield. The alien warriors on the ground had stopped moving. When the Queen died, the mental link that controlled them broke. They stood still for a moment, then collapsed like puppets with cut strings. The ones that were still alive ran away into the desert, terrified and without a leader. "It's over," Mike said softly. "We won." High in orbit, the remaining alien ships saw the Queen fall. They were leaderless and scared. The human fleet was damaged, but still dangerous. The alien ships turned their tails and ran. They used their faster engines to fly away into the deep darkness of space. They left their dead and their broken ships behind. "Let them go," Admiral Tom said, watching the radar screens clear of red dots. "Let them run home and tell their families what happened here. Let them tell the galaxy that Earth is not a place to invade." A few hours later, the dust had settled on the planet Ethelgard. The sun came out, shining on the damaged walls of the colony. A large transport ship descended from the sky. It was a medical ship. It landed gently in the middle of the courtyard. The back ramp opened. Sarah, the tactical officer from the fleet, walked down. She was wearing a clean uniform, carrying a medical kit. She saw Captain Mike sitting on a crate, getting a bandage wrapped around his arm. She walked over to him and smiled. "Admiral Tom sends his regards. He says you held the line perfectly." Mike smiled back, tired but happy. "We just did what we had to do. It was a close thing." "Better close than dead," a voice said from behind Sarah. Mike looked up. Sergeant Alex walked down the ramp of the transport. He was limping, using a crutch, and his armor was scorched black. He looked terrible, but he was grinning. "Alex!" Mike shouted. He stood up and shook the sergeant's hand. "I heard you put a bomb right in the Queen's face." "Something like that," Alex said. "She was ugly up close. I hope I never smell anything like that again." Ben came running out of the bunker. He was covered in dirt, but he was smiling. He ran up to the group. He looked up at the sky. The UES Wrath was still floating up there, guarding them. "It's really over?" Ben asked. "The bad guys are gone." "They are gone, Ben," Mike said. He put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "But we aren't going anywhere. The fleet is staying. The Earth Alliance is putting a flag on this planet. This is our home now, and we are going to protect it." Later that day, there was a ceremony. It was simple. There were no fancy dresses or long speeches. The survivors stood in the courtyard. Admiral Tom had come down from his ship to speak. He stood in front of a metal pole planted in the ground. Next to him was Mike, Alex, Sarah, and Ben. Tom looked at the tired soldiers. He looked at the damaged walls. He looked at the young people who had fought so hard. "A long time ago, humans looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone," Tom said. "We hoped for friends. We found monsters instead. But today, we showed the galaxy that humans are not easy prey. When you hurt us, we do not hide. We come back. We come back with bigger ships, bigger guns, and a fury that cannot be stopped." He reached down and pulled a rope. A flag rose up the pole. It was the flag of the United Earth Alliance. The blue circle and the bright stars waved in the wind. Below the flag, on the pole, someone had spray-painted a message in bright red letters: "Humans stay out." The crowd cheered. It was a loud cheer, full of relief and pride. Sergeant Alex looked at the flag. He looked at the mountain where the alien ship had crashed. He felt the pain in his leg, but he didn't care. They had survived. They had won. Mike stood next to him. "Do you think they will come back?" Mike asked. "The aliens?" Alex looked at the sky, where the stars were starting to come out. "Maybe," Alex said. "But if they do, they will know better than to mess with us." The sun set on Ethelgard. The colony was scarred, but it was standing. The fleet was in orbit, watching over the planet like a pack of wolves guarding their territory. The galaxy had changed today. The other civilizations would hear about this battle. They would hear that a small group of humans, backed by a fleet of iron monsters, had defeated the Xyloph swarm. They summoned backup, thinking they were calling for help. They didn't realize they were calling the wolves. And now, the wolves were here to stay. The victory at Ethelgard was like a rock thrown into a quiet pond. The ripples spread out across the stars, touching every planet, every outpost, and every alien empire in the galaxy. News traveled fast, even in the deep void of space. On the trading worlds, in the great cities of the Galactic Council, and in the deep warrens of the monsters, the story was the same. The humans had defeated the Xylov. The unbreakable swarm had been broken by a species that looked soft and weak. 2 weeks after the battle, the mining colony of Outnumbered was busy. The sounds of war were gone, replaced by the sounds of construction. Large machines roared as they cleared away the debris of the alien ships. New shields were being built around the living quarters, stronger and taller than before. The UES Wrath still sat in the sky, a dark gray guardian watching over the planet. Inside the main office of the colony, Captain Mike sat behind a desk that was too clean for him. He was wearing a fresh uniform, but he still kept his rifle within arm's reach. There was a knock on the metal door. "Come in," Mike said. The door slid open. Admiral Tom walked in. He looked the same as always, calm and holding a cup of coffee. Behind him was a tall, thin creature. It was not human. It had blue skin, large black eyes, and 4 long fingers on each hand. It wore a robe made of silver silk. This was a diplomat from the Galactic Council. "Captain," Tom said. "I would like to introduce Vex. He represents the Council of Stars. He is here to talk." Vex stepped forward. He looked around the small room with his big eyes. He did not sit. "I am Vex," the alien said. His voice sounded like music, high and smooth. "I have traveled far to see the place where the Xylov were defeated." Mike stood up. He nodded at the alien. "We didn't defeat them for a medal. We just wanted them to stop eating us." "Yes," Vex said slowly. "The Xylov have been a plague for 1,000 cycles. Many races have fallen to them. We hid. We ran. We paid them to leave us alone. But you..." Vex looked at Mike closely. "You fought them. And then, your ships came. We have never seen ships like yours. They do not use the elegant energy shields of the ancients. They use brute force. They get the job done," Mike said. "May I ask a question?" Vex asked. He looked nervous. "Our scanners analyzed the debris. You used nuclear weapons in the atmosphere. You risked your own world to kill the enemy." Tom stepped forward. "It was calculated. We knew the wind would blow the radiation away. We fight to win, Vex. We do not fight by rules that the enemy does not follow." Vex shivered. "You are dangerous," the alien whispered. "The Council is afraid of you. They see a species that loves war. They see a species that creates weapons of death and calls them protection." "We are not monsters," Tom said, his voice getting harder. "We are explorers. We are builders. But if you try to knock down our house, do not be surprised when we come out with a hammer." Vex looked at the floor. "That is the problem. Many empires in this galaxy are used to being the bullies. They have large fleets and advanced technology. They prey on the weak. Now, they hear about Earth. They wonder if Earth is a threat to them." Tom laughed. It was a short, dry laugh. "Earth is not a threat to anyone who leaves us alone. But yes, tell them what happened here. Tell them that the Xylov came for dinner, and we ate them instead." Vex stayed for another hour. He asked many questions about the humans. He wanted to know why they valued individual life so much, yet were willing to die so easily for each other. He did not understand the concept of brothers in arms. In his culture, the self was the most important thing. To him, the humans were a puzzle that did not fit together. When Vex left, Mike poured a drink for himself and the Admiral. Do you think he understood? Mike asked. He understood enough, Tom said. He will go back to the council. He will tell them that we are not to be messed with. Fear can be a good shield, Mike. If they are afraid of us, they won't attack us. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, in a dark room lit only by floating holograms, 3 figures stood around a map. These were the leaders of the Draken Syndicate. The Draken were reptilian warriors who loved to conquer. They had watched the report from Ethelgerd with great interest. The tallest Draken, a scarred veteran named Krog, pointed a claw at the hologram of the human ship. These humans, Krog hissed. They use kinetic weapons, simple bullets, how primitive. They killed the queen, a second Draken reminded him. The queen was powerful. The humans destroyed her with a small team and a bomb. Luck, Krog said. The Xyloth are stupid beasts. They rely on numbers. Humans are smart, but they are physically weak. Their skin is soft. They have no claws. We can crush them. They have a fleet, the third Draken said. A fleet of big, ugly ships. We saw the damage. Their armor is thick. Krog laughed. I want those ships. Their technology is crude, but it is powerful. Imagine if we had that armor combined with Draken cunning. We would rule the stars. Krog turned to his generals. Prepare the fleet. We will go to the edge of their space. We will test them. If they are weak, we take their ships. If they are strong, we run and plan a bigger attack. Back on Ethelgerd, the sun was setting. Sergeant Alex was walking along the perimeter wall. His leg was healing, but it still hurt when it rained. He wore a heavy coat to keep out the cold desert wind. Ben was sitting on the wall, his legs dangling over the edge. He was playing a small handheld video game. He looked happy. Hey, Ben, Alex said. Shouldn't you be sleeping? Can't sleep, Ben said. I keep thinking about the stars. Alex sat down next to him. He looked up at the sky. It's a big view. Do you think there are more bad guys out there? Ben asked. Like the bugs? Alex looked at the young technician. Ben had grown up fast in the last few weeks. He wasn't just a kid anymore, he was a survivor. Yeah, Ben, Alex said honestly. The galaxy is huge. There are probably things out there that make the Xyloth look like ants. There are probably things that are scary even to us. Does that scare you? Ben asked. Alex thought about it. He thought about the drop pod, the chainsaw sword, and the feeling of the alien ship exploding. He thought about the thousands of human ships sitting in dockyards back on Earth, waiting for the order to launch. No, Alex said. It doesn't scare me. Because I know who is watching my back. Look at the flag. Ben looked at the flagpole. The blue and white flag of the United Earth Alliance was waving in the wind. Below it, painted in crude letters on the wall, was the motto the soldiers had given themselves, No Mercy. We are humans, Alex said, patting Ben on the shoulder. We used to be afraid of the dark. But now we are the monsters in the dark. And if anyone else comes looking for a fight, we will be ready to give them one. A dropship flew overhead, its engines humming. It was bringing supplies and fresh soldiers to replace the ones who had died. The colony was growing. It was becoming a fortress. The battle for Ethelgerd was over, but the story of humanity in the stars was just beginning. The galaxy had woken a sleeping giant. The aliens had summoned backup, but they had summoned the wrong species. They had summoned humanity. And humanity was just getting started.